Hello beautiful people of YouTube, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about a sensitive subject, maybe not for everyone, but definitely for me, and it is my coronavirus COVID-19 teaching experience. And this is something that I've been thinking about since this whole thing started 3 months ago, probably more than that actually by the time that this video posts, but it's just something that I haven't figured out the right words I wanted to say. I didn't really know what to say, but now that the school year has been over for a few weeks, I feel like I've had the time to gather my thoughts, reflect on the situation, and I'm ready to talk about it. So I thought I would share with you guys my experience, my emotions. I don't know where we're gonna go with this video, but we will see when we get to the end. I'm just excited to share with you now that I've had the time to reflect and really process kind of how I'm feeling about the whole situation. If you guys are new here, my name is Natalie. I'm currently an elementary school teacher in Central Oregon. We just moved here. So during the pandemic, I was teaching in Northern California. So here we go. So I guess I'm just gonna start from the very beginning. From August through December, I did my student teaching in 3rd and 6th grade. So I finished my student teaching halfway through the year, which is very unique. Basically, I got my master's degree with my credential, and I only had to do 15 weeks of student teaching instead of a full year. So normally you'd do a full year of student teaching and then you'd apply for jobs for the next school year. But I couldn't apply for jobs because it's very, very rare for them to hire you halfway through the year unless there's some sort of emergency situation. And then even then you'd probably be a long-term sub like I ended up being, and yeah, you could get hired for the next year. But basically I finished my credential in January and I decided I was just gonna start subbing to get connected. Even though I knew we were gonna be moving, I wanted to get more experience in the field teaching and build my resume up a little bit. So, long story short, through a friend of a friend, in March, I got connected with this teacher who was on maternity leave. Her long-term sub could no longer be in the classroom, so she needed a long-term sub immediately. My friend messaged me and asked if I was interested, and of course, a long-term sub is the dream position to get for a substitute, especially one who wants to become a teacher. So it's great experience. And essentially it's like having your own classroom. You get to plan and do all the material just in somebody else's classroom. So I said yes, I was interested. This is March 9th. Monday, March 9th, I meet with my principal and the teacher that I'm going to be long-term subbing for, and I interview with them to make sure it's a good fit for all of us. And so I get hired on Monday after the interview. It all went really well. And I had already planned to sub for a friend of mine on Tuesday and on Friday. And since they were friends of mine, I didn't feel comfortable bailing on them for the sub jobs. If it was a random one, I maybe would have been like, hey, I'm sorry, I have to cancel. I got this opportunity. But one of the sub jobs I was doing was for the friend who got me connected with this job. So there was no way that I could tell her no. So I was subbing for her a half day on Tuesday and then for my friend on Friday. So March 10th, Tuesday comes around. I go in for a half a day in the morning for my new classroom that I'm gonna be a long-term sub for, and I meet the kids, and basically I spend the morning prepping everything. The old long-term sub was in there doing her last day of teaching with them, and I didn't want to overstep, and I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for the rest of the week. So I spent the day prepping. I introduced myself, kind of got to know the kids and what they were doing. And then I came back Wednesday and Thursday and I did team building activities, basically like it was the first day of school. I wanted to get to know these kids and I wanted them to get to know me and build that relationship because I am huge on building relationships in the classroom. I feel like that is more important than anything. So I didn't want to focus on curriculum. I wanted them to have fun and really get to know me, especially since they had such an abrupt change in their situation. I wanted them to know that I was going to be there and that I cared, and all of that. So Friday comes around, it's the day before spring break. Our spring break was going to be the week of March 16th, and it still was. So I had a sub come in for me on that Friday, and it was a half day for them, and they were really excited for spring break. And my plan was to go in over spring break and really get to know what the kids had been doing up to that point in the school year, the curriculum, look at their test and diagnostic scores, and really just have a feel for where I was going to go after spring break. Well, you know what they say, never make a plan because someone's going to be looking down on you laughing, because that did not happen. The Friday of spring break, we all thought that we were going to be going back to school, and then over that weekend, I'm pretty sure, is when we found out that we were at least not going back for 2 weeks. So at this point, I'm like, okay, so we're not going back for 2 weeks. I'm just gonna kind of ride it out and see what happens. Well, we all know that we never went back to school. So our district came out and said, we're gonna be doing distance learning from March 30th until I think it was April 20th was our projected go back to school date. So that means we had 2 weeks of no school. We had spring break, and then we had a week for teachers to figure out what the heck we were gonna do to do distance learning. So I met with my grade level partner, Jill. If you're watching this, I love you so much. We tried to figure out exactly what it was we were gonna do. Nobody had done distance learning before, and luckily I was in 3rd grade. I was familiar with the curriculum from my student teaching. The other grade level partner, she was a long-term sub, and she had been the long-term sub for the girl I was in for when she went on maternity leave for her first baby. So she was very, very familiar with the curriculum. I was familiar with it, so we weren't worried about what we had to teach. We were worried about how we were going to do it, which I feel like every teacher in America, in the world, had no idea how they were gonna do it. I didn't know how I was gonna do it, but I also just met my students. Mind blowing. So I had to figure out how I was going to continue to build my relationships with them so that way they wanted to learn, they wanted to do school, and figure out how to teach them online. Guys, the first 2 weeks, I wanted to cry. It was not that it was, I don't know how to put it into words. It wasn't that it was very hard. It was just emotionally, I didn't understand why I got ripped and pulled out of being in that classroom with those kids, and I didn't get to meet them for longer. I didn't get to build that relationship. I didn't get to know them. So I had a really hard time emotionally because, like I said, I thrive off of building relationships with my students, and I just felt like I didn't get enough time. I feel like every teacher got this. I'm not saying it's just me. Every teacher was feeling this way, but especially in my situation, I felt really, really down in the dumps for the first few weeks. But my decision was to Zoom with my kids every day. I did fun activities with them. I just talked with them and had that student and teacher interaction, and we built incredible relationships. So I wish that I could go back and tell myself at the very beginning of distance learning that it's gonna be okay. Your students are gonna end up loving you. You're gonna build incredible relationships, but I just was so down in the dumps that even if I went back and told myself that, I wouldn't believe it. Initially, this was all very temporary. So at first, we were only gonna do it for 2 weeks, and then it was 4 weeks, and then it was 6 weeks, and we were supposed to go back in April, and then May, and then it ended up being June. As we all know, school never ended up going back. And so I not only had to deal emotionally with that inside of me, but I had to figure out how to tell and break this news to my students via Zoom. And the amount of students that I had cry and just every day tell me, oh my gosh, I wish I could be in the classroom with you. I miss you so much. And just all of that was heart-wrenching, as I'm sure every teacher can relate to. So I feel like I've shared a lot of the raw emotional hardships of this situation, and that's why I didn't want to do this video earlier, because If I would have shared this video with you before school got out, I feel like that's what it would have been, is the hardships and the emotional portion of my experience. But since school has been out, like I said, I've had a lot of time to reflect and honestly pull the goods out of this situation and look on the bright side and the positives that came out of this. I feel so incredibly grateful, appreciative, and honestly humbled by this entire experience. It was a huge experience for me. I learned so much about myself, about teaching. I learned how to teach online. Like, that is insane, to teach third graders online. I am so appreciative for the opportunity that I still had the ability to work. I had a job and I was able to share education and teach children. I got to do what I love to do, which is teach and be around kids. Even though I didn't get to do it in the classroom with them, I still got to be on Zoom with them every single day. And this is something that I will never forget and those kids will never forget. Maybe if I was in the classroom with them 10 years from now, they'd be like, that teacher, I don't remember her. But now these kids, they had me and they will probably remember me in this teaching experience for the rest of their lives, which is super, super special. I also try and look at the situation and say, maybe I wasn't meant to be in the classroom with them. Maybe I was meant to be the teacher that taught online with them. There was a reason that all of this happened, that the timing of it was the way it was. And as kind of cruddy as it was to not get to spend more time with them in the classroom, maybe this is how it was supposed to be. I was the one who was prepared and ready, even though I wasn't, to teach them online and to build that relationship with them. And maybe it's exactly what they needed. So I've been reassuring myself of that. And it's funny because I never would have thought about it like that, but I had a few parents tell me at the very end of the school year when we were saying our see you laters, say, I don't think that anybody else could have done this the way that you did. And I think that you were the one that was supposed to teach them online. So hearing them say that and having this time to reflect really helps me to think all of this happened for a reason and it was meant to be this way. So if there's any other teachers out there, which I'm sure there are, who can relate to this and just need to hear that your students needed you just as badly as you needed them during this pandemic. They are going to remember this school year for the rest of their lives, and they're going to remember you. You were the one that helped them through this. You were the one who was there for them even when they couldn't be at school. And that is an amazing thing to look back on. I know that myself as a teacher, my students, every teacher out there, every administrator, every person out there is better and stronger because they went through this. So I know that one day when I walk through the doors of my future classroom, which I hope is soon, my students are going to be better because they went through this. I'm going to be better because I went through it. And we're all going to finally be able to be together, which is going to be the most special, special moment. So I know I said that this video was really just going to be about my teaching experience, and I just felt like I wanted to share more emotion and just be real and raw with you guys, which is what I want on my channel. I don't want it to all be just sunshine and glitter. I want it to be rainbows, rain clouds, whatever there is. I want to share it with you guys, and I hope that more people share stuff like this on YouTube and social media, and we can just start to show a trend of real and raw in the world, because that is what we are. We're real and we're raw. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my COVID-19 teaching story. I really hope that you guys enjoyed listening to my story, and I can't wait to hear what your story was like. Everybody had a story with this, whether you were teaching your kids at home, teaching your students online. I'd love to hear your story. So comment down below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Your support means the world to me. And don't forget to subscribe, because I have a lot more stories and real and raw adventures to share with you moving forward. I'll see you guys in the next one.